Hi everyone, here's the Bookchemist once again, and this is the usual video where I talk about the books I plan to read in the course of the year, and some of these I will clearly not read at all, but in recent years I got quite good at this stuff. Recently I checked the video about the books I'll read in 2018, and I actually did read most of those. With the notable exception of Prague's Cemetery by Umberto Eco, which I'm not sure I'll be reading this year, because I do plan to read all of Eco's works. He's one of my very favorite writers, even though I've only checked 3 of his novels so far, but I think I'll be going chronologically, and the next one is probably going to be either Baudolino, I think, and the other big one I didn't check is 2666 by Roberto Bolano. How do you even pronounce the name of that book? It always puzzles me. Is it 2666? Who knows? Is 2019 the year I read that fucking book? It might be. I don't want to make any promise. I do want to check out that book, even though it scares me. But also I enjoyed The Savage Detective so much last year, so it should be fun, hopefully. You guys keep recommending it. It's definitely the novel I get recommended the most, and I've talked to so many people who are huge Bolaños fans and fans of that novel. We'll see. I really hope this is the year I finally crack that thing open. Another novel you guys recommend a lot is The Nix by Nathan Hale, which I actually began yesterday. I only read the very first few chapters. I had a few issues with the novel. It's clearly well written. It flows beautifully, yet it has a captivating beginning, but it seems to me a little bit too enamored with making fun of corporate America and the media and that kind of thing that you know, caustic and arch American writers really like to talk about. Also, there's a character in here who is ashamed of the game, the online game he plays, and that game is called Elfscape and features elves and orcs fighting each other and fighting dragons. And there's one of his playmates is called Ponage and goes like, "I smashed your face, noob," writing zeros in place of the O's, and I'm a huge nerd. I read Dungeons and Dragons adventures, I paint Tyranids. The last games I played were replayings of Baldur's Gate 2, Oblivion and Minecraft. To me, reading about that stuff is very painful. It's like reading about Italian characters who are mustachioed and shifty and archly Catholic and shout all the time and move their hands around a lot and say lots of stupid things. I'm not saying the portrayal is entirely misplaced. I'm saying it is still very, very offensive. Also, I've heard the book compared to Pynchon and Wallace, and so far I've picked up nothing of Pynchon and 100% of Wallace, but hey, these are my problems. These are things that maybe rub me the wrong way. These are not problems with the book. If you are a fan of The Nix, please don't get mad with me. And of course, this is a very, very first impression. I only read like 30 pages or something. I'm sure it's a masterpiece, I'm sure it's a great novel, but it also smells very Franzen-ish to me. And in case, say, some dysfunctional Midwestern suburban family on antidepressants or some morbidly obese characters stepped into the narrative, some of those things that writers use to tear very easily at readers' emotions, in case there's an abundance of those in here, I might just have to admit that this is not quite my cup of tea. Not because it's bad, once more, just because maybe it's not for me. Maybe I read too much of that stuff in the past. Other books I'll read in the course of the year include those works by Jennifer Egan and Jonathan Lethem, which I still have to check out, which mostly means The Invisible Circus, Egan's debut novel, and Lethem's latest novel, The Feral Detective. My copy should be in the mail, should arrive any day now. Also, I've started rereading those among Chabon's novels which I haven't read in a long time. So far I've reread The Mysteries of Pittsburgh and Wonder Boys. My review of Wonder Boys should be online in a week or so, and I believe I'll be rereading Summerland and The Final Solution and Telegraph Avenue and maybe Gentlemen of the Road too. Expect videos about that stuff. It's been a long time since I last read some classic literature. I think, but a few weeks ago I found a free copy of Moby Dick, and I'm tempted to read it because it's one of those books. As a scholar of American literature, it's truly a shame. It's truly something I shouldn't disclose in public videos, the fact that I still have to read Moby Dick. It would be great, some might say it's the least that's expected of me, if I manage to read Moby Dick in the course of the year, and maybe some other work of classic American literature, 19th century American literature, that I still have to read. When it comes to comic books and graphic novels, I have Persepolis on my shelf. This is one of those books I mentioned in last year's video, but eventually I didn't read. But this time I already have it, so I think it's safe to say that I will be able to check it out before next December. I also recently started reading the manga Pluto by Urasawa. I'm loving it. I really adore it. I hope I'll be able to read the entire series in the course of the year, and maybe I'll film a video about it once I'm done. Finally, last year I did something new with this channel. I reread Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow and filmed a 8-10 video series about it, kind of a read-along, kind of a reading project, and I'd like very much to do that again this year. And I'm going to ask you guys, what would you like to read together? Should we stick with Pynchon or should we do something different? At the moment I have two main ideas, both of which I would adore to do, also because I think both of these are things I'm going to read in the course of the year. Either I'm going to reread Lovecraft's Lovecraft's short stories. It's been a few years since I last read Lovecraft's works, and film a series of videos maybe on some of his most anthologized and most famous short stories, and maybe even one or two on some of the least famous ones that are still absolutely praiseworthy. Or, of course, we could stick with old Pynchon and I could film another series, this one on Gravity's Rainbow. It's not like these are going to be all that insightful at the end of the day. The main function of these videos, I think, is to keep each other interested in this stuff and engaged, especially with Gravity's Rainbow. You know, these kind of long, difficult, cryptic books, occasionally you might find yourself wondering, why am I bothering with this? Whereas I believe that if you read this kind of thing in that type of project, with a reading project, a read-along, maybe it helps you keeping motivated. I don't think many of us will need motivation with Against the Day, because it has hands down one of the best plots I've ever read in literature. It's so engaging and filled with unforgettable characters. It feels like Thomas Pynchon wrote a Final Fantasy game. It's so beautiful and so thrilling and filled with monsters and battles and fights and heartbreaking reflections on history and more. But still, it is absolutely cryptic at times. I'm sure I didn't quite understand the full implications of so many scenes during my first read, and I'd love to reread it, maybe paying closer attention to some parts. Let me know if you might like to watch a few videos either on Lovecraft or Against the Day, and if there's any book I should absolutely check out in the course of 2019, of course, do recommend it. I can't guarantee I will read it, but I'll note it down. I have a very long list of books I'd like to read one day, and maybe one day I'll get to them, or maybe I won't, but at least I'll add the title to that list, which is always fun. It feels like already completing 1% of the quest. Also, I haven't checked at all publishing houses' catalogs or lists of forthcoming releases, so if there's any new book coming out that I should be excited about, let me know once again. And what books do you plan to read in the course of 2019? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about that, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.